Hi everyone, this is Avery here with I Don't Know Her. This week, Anna May Wong became the first Asian American to be featured on U.S. currency. We thought this would be a great opportunity to bring her story back to our main feed. If you missed it the first time around, I ask that you please listen to this. Even if you've heard it before, I encourage you to listen again. This week, you will probably hear people talking about her and wondering who she was. And you can be the one who says, you probably don't know her, but here's some facts and now you do. Please enjoy this week's repost and gear yourselves up for a very fun new episode next week. Thank you for listening.
How many times must you be told? There's nowhere that we don't go.
He's got good traction. What's a beautiful girl like you would race in a place like this?
Hello, everyone.
Hey there, guys. This is Rita,
This is Amanda.
and you're listening to
I Don't Know Her, the podcast where we talk about women you've probably never heard of,
but you should have.
and now you will.
All right. Amanda told me she's got an insane story for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I do. So let me preface this by saying that I saw this on Twitter, and at first I was like, no way. It was this thread where this woman was like, I just witnessed the most insane white privilege moment of my life. So I was like, oh, what is this going to be like another, what was that woman who called the cops?
Oh,
I can't even remember what they
I can't
nicknamed
even
her.
remember. The one with the cell phone. Like,
Yeah, and she was like,
everywhere.
I'd like to report. So so I thought it was going to be something like that, or like a white woman throwing a tantrum or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But let me just tell you, be prepared for something much crazier.
Okay.
So this woman was on a plane it was in Phoenix, and they were going to Sundance, the Sundance Film Festival in Utah.
Okay.
So most of the people on the flight were headed for the same destination. And this woman comes running up to the gate as they're closing the doors and is like, I have to get on that plane. And they were like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you're going to get on the next flight. Your bags are already on this flight, so they'll be waiting for you when you arrive.
Mm-hmm.
She would not be separated from her bag. She was like, no, you need to get me my bag. You need to get my bag off that plane. And they're like, I'm sorry, ma'am, it'll arrive before you. Don't worry about it. It'll get put in the office. You'll just be able to pick it up when you get there. And she wouldn't take no for an answer. She was insistent that she get her fucking bag off that fucking plane.
Okay.
So she finally did the one thing that she knew would get her bag off that plane.
What did she do?
There's a bomb in my bag.
No, she did not. Did
And
they arrest her then?
yeah, but once somebody says that or threatens that, they have protocol they have to follow. They not only had to take everybody off the plane, have TSA and the U.S. Marshals come, they had to shut down the entire wing of the airport. They ended up shutting down all of the restaurants in that wing of the airport, like hours.
Yeah, because it's safety. Like, what if
she was
even
telling
if
the
she
truth?
was bullshitting? What if it was true and all of these people's safety is in jeopardy?
That's right. And they have to follow protocol. So once somebody makes a claim that there's a bomb in the bag, they have to go and follow all of the procedures to make sure there's no bomb in the bag.
So there was no bomb.
No bomb. She just said that so she could get her bag off the plane.
Wow, is she in trouble?
Yeah, because it's illegal.
Yeah,
It's
to
a,
say isn't that a federal crime?
yeah, it's a felony. Yeah, for sure.
Ah, that is so fucking stupid.
Can you imagine having the entitlement to be like, it's not enough that I'm delaying everybody from getting to their destination by arguing with the agents at the gate, but I'm willing to commit a federal crime because I don't want my bag to fly without me.
That is so stupid.
I lost my shit. I was like, that's
or
wild.
just the privilege of not understanding the severity of saying that, being like, I can get away with it.
But they calmly escorted her away and whatever. And, I don't really know because no one brown is that dumb. But I don't believe that if your name was Malik Hakim, that if you said that same thing,
You'd
that they
be
were going
tased and thrown to the ground.
Yeah, you would have people with guns coming towards you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just,
That's one thing I've noticed is when white women are documented in situations like this, like on a cell phone video or something like that, or surveillance in a restaurant, they can get really loud. They can even get violent. They will start hitting other people, throwing things at them, and they don't get in trouble.
I know.
They get calmly talked down and escorted away.
Yeah, that has such long-reaching history
It's so ingrained.
of white women being allowed to be unruly, tantrum-throwing toddlers, and still be allowed to be kept their dainty little flowers.
Mm-hmm.
But women of color don't get that same right afforded to them. They don't get to throw temper tantrums and threaten to harm or hit a service worker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not how that works. And it really ties all the way back to like when white women would claim rape when they weren't raped and just wanted to get some black guy in trouble, or they really were raped, but it was by their friend who was a white man and they didn't want to get him in trouble. So I'm going to get this innocent person in trouble, which I never will understand. Like that whole history of our country and how we interact with one another, that needs to change.
It does.
I was really glad that the person who originally posted this thread, I believe, was a white woman.
Really?
Yeah. Who was like, guys, I'm calling
Wake
you in
up.
right now to be like, don't do this. This is insane. And it really is. Like, that is
seriously uncalled for.
it is.
You wasted all these people's time. You wasted how much money do you think she fucking wasted? You probably, what if there were children that are being led away? There's a bomb on a plane. That's terrifying. That's traumatic.
There was a family near the woman who posted about this on Twitter, and they were going to a funeral for a loved one.
Are you kidding me? Jesus.
And there was probably people on that plane that were on their way to see a dying relative who missed their last window of opportunity because this woman thought her bag was more fucking important.
That is insane.
It's, what if there was somebody traveling with an organ for an organ transplant?
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that you couldn't conceptualize, this woman could not conceptualize that other people matter too.
Mm-hmm.
And her bag probably isn't on the top of everyone's fucking list.
Well, and also, you don't always get what you want.
Right?
They said no.
I think maybe because I grew up with manners, one, and two, with, not a ton of money, I learned that.
Question mark?
I guess I just don't understand where people don't learn that.
It's there. It's out there, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is sometimes a generational difference there.
How old was this woman?
She was definitely probably like 40.
Okay.
I would say between 40 and 45 based on her picture.
Okay. Oh, I can't wait to see her picture.
She looks exactly the way I imagined she would look.
Really?
Yeah. She's blonde, probably pretty wealthy. Like, you just, sometimes you can just tell when someone's wealthy just by looking at them.
I'm sure she'll see no jail time. I'm sure she'll pay a fine.
Yeah, I don't mind if she doesn't see jail time, but I definitely want her to pay a fuck ton of money. And I want her to be like banned from ever flying anywhere ever again. That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
And what an inconvenience for her for the rest of her fucking life because she couldn't get her bag off the plane.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like,
the caucasity.
Yes, the caucasity of it all. I can't even wrap my brain around it. I've never personally in my long history of being in a family full of white women, never, ever have I ever known somebody who would do that. And so I can't think of like, how were you raised? Who are you?
Who never said no to you?
Who are you?
Yeah.
Like what? I can think of one person maybe who's not my direct relation.
I know exactly.
I got my visor on because I'm throwing some shade. I can think of one person who might pull something like that, but not that quite that dumb.
Not that.
Because that is like a level of also stupidity that I think is just like that woman's entitlement eclipsed her intelligence. And that's pretty incredible. New heights. She wins an award.
Yeah.
An award for that.
We should make one up so we can just put a stamp on it.
Could we like deem her the cacacity queen?
There you go.
Yeah.
We could have one every week. Who's the caucasity queen this week?
Oh my God, maybe we should. We should have a caucasity queen every week. to better all of the other, like, hey, white women, I'm gonna call you in right now. All you come gather around. Don't do that.
Don't
Call the cops on people minding their own business.
Mm-hmm.
Unless that business is like in some way harming another individual. Like if you see a woman who's very clearly not wanting to be with some man and he's yanking her around or whatever, it's a different situation. But if it's not any of your business, just keep on going.
Yeah.
Don't call the police, especially if they're black or brown. Don't do it. Just avoid it. That's your lesson for the week. Also, don't say you have a bomb in a bag.
Don't ever say that.
When you don't.
When you don't.
And you're just saying it to get your bag back.
That is ridiculous.
I was like, what was in... Now I want to know, like, what was in the bag. She put her precious family jewels in there.
It better have been something expensive like a Louis Vuitton.
No, I'm like, it's got to be the Hope Diamond from the Titanic in there.
She found it.
Because it's like, there isn't an amount of Sephora makeup that would make me say there's a bomb in my bag. Well, anyway.
Okay. Did I go first last week or did
I
you?
believe you did.
I did. Do you want to go first?
I will go first.
Alrighty.
I am a little afraid you know who this is. I'm also a little afraid that our audience is going to be very familiar with her. And then it'll make me feel dumb.
Will she or will she not feel dumb?
I'm going to tell the story of Anna May Wong.
I don't know her.
Oh, good. She was the first Asian American Hollywood movie star.
Oh.
And the first Asian American to have her own television show.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was like way later. Anna May Wong was born, her given name was Wong Liu Song on January 3rd, 1905 in Los Angeles.
1905.
She was born just a block north of Chinatown. Her family had emigrated originally to the United States via her grandfather, who moved here from Taishan, China in the 1850s. So, long time in the States. He actually started a store in Michigan Bluffs, California, where the gold rush had started. There is where Anna's father, Sam Sing Wong, was born in 1858.
Okay.
So, her grandfather died pretty young. He was actually doing something very heroic, the opposite of the woman with the bag. He was trying to rescue a woman who'd fallen in a well, and he died.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to help her. And this meant that her father, Anna's father, was on his own at like age 10.
Oh.
So Sam Sing ended up going back to China for a while as a young man, which you can imagine, like being like 8 or 9 years old. Oh yeah, you're going to need to go home to where your family is.
Yeah.
So he went back to China, and when he was a young man, he met and married his first wife. Then, I don't know exactly the specifics of how he left that wife, but I don't know if they got a mutual divorce or if he was just peace out. Okay. But he left her and moved to the United States, and he met a woman named Gon Toy Lee and married her. And she was originally from Oakland. She was born and raised in Oakland, California.
I love Oakland.
Do you?
Yeah.
I've never been.
Really?
No, I've never even been to San Francisco.
Oh, shit. Okay. I didn't know that.
I know.
For some reason, I thought you had.
Just LA.
LA. Okay.
And the Gon Toy Lee and Sam Sing Wong, they ran a laundromat in Los Angeles. And together they had 8 children.
Whoa.
Anna May was their second child. And so again, her born name, like given name, was Wong Liu Song, which meant frosted yellow willows.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
But They also gave all of their kids Americanized names. And so hers was Anna May.
Okay.
They lived in a really racially mixed neighborhood in LA, it sounded really cool. If I think about like being born in the early 1900s in Los Angeles in a neighborhood that had Chinese, Irish, German, and Japanese people living there. What an incredible mixture.
Yeah.
So at first, Anna and her older sister, Lulu, had attended public elementary school, but they received vicious bullying and taunting. And that eventually drove them out of school.
I was going to say so much that they left, probably.
Yeah, I want to actually share some of it with you because Anna actually spoke about it.
Okay.
This is what she said. We tried to walk unconcernedly home from school, always with a larger and larger crowd of our tormentors around us shouting, "Chink, chink, Chinaman, chink, chink, Chinaman," yanking our pigtails as they called our straight black braids of hair, pushing us off sidewalks into the street, pinching us, slapping us. Every day was one of torture for us.
Jeez. That's terrifying.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
That's like terrorism.
Yeah.
God, those children, all of them. How are you raised? How could you do?
Why do you think that's okay? Yeah.
Mhm.
What if it was happening to you?
The girls were then transferred, obviously, after all of this. Their mother was like, no.
Yeah.
So they were transferred into a Chinese Presbyterian mission school in Chinatown, where all of the other students were also Chinese. However, all of their classes were taught in English. But their parents wanted them to know Chinese, so they sent them to a Chinese language school after school.
Okay.
And I have a whole contingent of Russian students where I teach, and they do the same thing. They go to school all day at a school that teaches English, and then in the afternoons they have to go to Russian school. For years they have to go to Russian school.
Wow.
And at their Russian school they learn not just the language but also history and culture and blah blah blah, so that they don't lose touch with their homeland.
Wouldn't that be fun for like everybody to do that? Like what if I had gone to school and then went and learned Latin American history and Spanish after school?
Mm-hmm. In when I used to teach on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, they also did that. There would be Northern Cheyenne like language classes, Northern Cheyenne culture classes, Northern Cheyenne history classes. And I thought, well, this should be just taught in every Montana school, period. Mm-hmm. But like, I thought that was really cool. And I think if you live in an area that has like a predominant population of, let's say, Latin Americans or whatever, I think that public school should then offer those kinds of classes so that the students don't have to go out and do it on their own. So around the time that Anna was in upper elementary school, the film industry was transitioning from being based in New York to being based in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And when that started happening, a lot of films started being filmed right around Chinatown.
Oh, okay.
And she was like stars in her eyes. And she knew by the time she was 9 that that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a movie star. So she started studying films. She would like skip school and go to the movie theater. She would skip school and like hang out in the like background of movie sets when nobody was looking.
What?
When she was 11, she knew what she wanted her stage name to be. Honoring both her Americanized and birth names, she settled on Anna May Wong. So Anna May was the name that her parents had given her as her Americanized name, and Wong was her actual first name.
Okay.
So Anna was obsessed with the film industry. She was constantly begging people to get her on set. She even was nicknamed by like people in the industry because they kept seeing her all the time. Mm-hmm. They called her CCC, or the Curious Chinese Child.
Oh my gosh.
One day, her father had a friend who was actually in the film industry.
Okay.
And one day she was like, "Will you please introduce me to the assistant director of this film that's going on?" And her father's friend did not consult with her father, nothing. And he went and asked, and it was an Alan Nazimova film. And as soon as I read her name, I was like, I know who that is. She's a lesbian. If you've been mentioned at any point as a lesbian in the whole circle of like old Hollywood, I know your name.
She does.
And I was right. She was this Russian actress who was she had an affair with like a male director, but her long-term partner was a woman.
Oh, okay.
So that actress was filming a movie near her house, and she convinced her dad's friend to let her on set. And that she got there, and they needed extras, and so she
hustled her way in, huh?
At age 14, got to be in her first film.
Oh, that's cool.
She was just carrying a lantern in the background. But I imagine she was the kind of kid who just kept doing that
over and
over. Okay. She was going to be in every shot possible. So for the next 2 years, she actually worked as an extra. Any chance she could get to be on set, she worked as an extra. And she was like really watching and studying what people did and how to do this thing. And of course, this is silent film time.
Oh, okay.
She became actually so busy with being an extra that she decided to drop out of high school in 1921 to try to actually go for an acting career. She was 16.
Oh, that's young.
Yeah, but here's what she thought, which I actually thought was pretty smart for being 16. She was like, I'm going to give this 10 years, and if it doesn't work out, I'm still young enough to do my thing, to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And she would be right. She'd only be like 25, 26 when she finished the 10 years. And if she hadn't made a name for herself, she would still be young enough to, do what she was alternative plan would be.
Mm-hmm.
Within a year, she landed her first big role at age 17. Can you imagine being 17?
No.
She was the star.
Oh my gosh.
She was the star of a movie called The Toll of the Sea. It was, this is kind of convoluted. You know, Madame Butterfly?
Yeah.
That's a stage play that was actually like based on a short story. I don't know. Everybody was plagiarizing. So this movie was loosely based on Madame Butterfly.
Okay.
It was also only the second film ever released in color.
Wow.
So she got that under her belt too.
That's really cool.
And the story centered on an American man who washes up on Chinese shores and then seduces and eventually deserts a virginal young woman. So she played that role. Variety praised her as having extraordinarily fine acting. The New York Times, which I actually read this article from 1920 or whatever, 21.
Mm-hmm.
The New York Times touted her as one of the best parts of the film, saying that her acting was balanced and not overly theatrical. And the reviewer ended by saying she should be seen again and often on the screen.
Nice. Not a bad start.
No, I mean, get out the gate and everybody's like, you're great at this. So after this success, Anna sought out the parts of leading ladies in films. That's what she wanted. But there were a couple of really big obstacles in her way. One, which is something I did not know about, it was called the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882.
I've heard of that. Is it about work?
Mm-mm.
The workers' rights? No.
This act was law until 1943.
Jeez.
What it said is that Chinese and American-born Chinese people, even third generations like Anna May, were not allowed American citizenship. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yikes.
Like,
I recognize the title of that from like AP history.
It's like her father was born in California. She was born in California. They're fucking U.S. citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Bananas. And two, and these I did know about, but I didn't really, and I did kind of understand this, but the anti-miscegenation laws. Those were the laws that were put in place to say that white people could never be romantically or intimately involved with a person of color.
That's crazy.
And that even extended to the film industry. You couldn't have like a white actor and another actor of color.
Like even the representation of it. Okay.
Even if, and this is wild, even if like, let's say it was a film that was set in China, even if the characters were both Chinese, if one of them was played by a white person, they could not kiss on screen. Well, that was obviously going to be a big obstacle in her way. How can you be a leading lady if you're not allowed to be cast against a white man when they're not allowing men of color to be in leading male roles?
And that's exactly why those laws and acts are made
Mm-hmm.
in that way is to block them from proceeding.
Yeah,
doing
they
better
couldn't,
things.
They couldn't be part of this industry,
Mm-hmm.
not fully part of it. And obviously, it was pretty standard practice to have Asian parts played by white people.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow face. It was unheard of to have an Asian man play the part of an Asian man if that part was the hero of the film.
That is so insane.
They could be the leading man if the man was a villain. Right?
My head just went 90 degrees. I was like, are you kidding me?
It was like the exorcist in here. Yeah. If the leading part was a villain, it could be played by a person of color.
Wow, no uplifting characters for you.
No.
No, you're never going to be the hero.
And in fact, at the time, there was a very famous Asian male actor who was a dreamboat. His name was Sesu Hayakawa. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
I hadn't either. He was mentioned a couple of times in relationship to her.
Mm-hmm.
So he had, I think, started before her in the industry. And he was very, like, white women were into him.
I want to
And-
see this guy.
And, like, they would flock to the theaters to go watch him on screen. He had this, like, really broody look to him.
Ooh.
And so he later on was nominated for a Best Supporting Actor Oscar, like way long after he'd been in the silent films. But he even talked about he was never allowed to, quote, get the girl.
Mm.
So there was no way they would ever have him and Anna May be in the same movie together as the leading roles. It was
That's
just
crazy.
not going to happen. So they often had to be in either supporting roles or roles that were villains.
Mm-hmm.
So Anna May was like, okay, I'm going to throw myself into these supporting roles and I'm going to prove to them how amazing I am. And then eventually they're going to let me be a leading lady. In 1923, she starred in the director Todd Browning's movie called Drifting. And she played the part of an exotic concubine.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a part.
And apparently she had an affair with the director, Todd Browning. And when I thought about that, I was like, because then it followed up with saying it was a scandalous relationship because it was interracial
Yeah.
and she was underage. I was like, I don't really think that's an affair then. That feels a little icky to me.
It feels a little icky, like you're her boss.
Yeah,
and
you're her
she's
boss.
17.
Yeah. She's
And
a teenage
She's
girl.
a young girl, impressionable.
So I didn't really
Think that should be called an affair.
No, I don't think that's an affair so much as sexual harassment.
Yeah.
In 1924, she was 19. She played a dragon lady in The Thief of Baghdad. So I had a pretty good idea that I understood the definition of a dragon lady because I've heard it as a stereotype in literature and whatever, but I wanted to make sure I got this right.
Okay.
So a dragon lady is the stereotype of East Asian and occasionally South and Southeast Asian women as strong, specifically deceitful, domineering, and mysterious.
Okay.
So they're basically like liars who manipulate.
Okay.
And so that's what she played as a fucking 19-year-old
Jeez.
in The Thief of Baghdad. But that movie made more than $2 million.
Wow, that's a lot of money back then.
That's a fuck ton of money. It's
Yeah.
1924.
Yeah.
And that made Anna May Wong a pretty recognizable actress at the time. Having made a decent amount of money, though obviously paid less than her white counterparts, she was able to move out of her family's home and get her own place. And she also started to really develop her own sense of style. She was super into the flapper look, and
Oh,
she just sort of
okay.
ran with that and became like a style icon. She was very well dressed all the time. And she was really smart about that because dressing in the flapper style was uniquely American.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really pushing against this idea that she was foreign,
Mm-hmm.
because she's not foreign. She's an American citizen. She was born in the United States. But people perceived her as being Chinese.
Yeah. Well, people see they see the other, and they
Mhm.
think you had to have come from somewhere else. I've been, I would say more than 10 times in my life asked when did I get to the States? And I was like, I've never left.
Well, if you count my embryo phase, never.
Never.
Yeah, well, and she also like she'd never been outside of the United States. Like she's an American through and through.
Yeah.
But that's not obviously how white people perceived her.
Mm-hmm.
So this is pretty incredible. So that year that she was in that really big film, made a lot of money, she decided to create her own production company called Anna May Wong Productions with a business partner, making her one of the first Asian American women to have her own film company. But my best guess is that Esther Eng, who you covered on the very first episode, was probably the first Asian American woman who had her own company. But I couldn't quite tell.
The timelines, yeah.
It was probably either like similar, like close together, or Esther was a little bit ahead. Unfortunately, so Anna May really had this grand plan that what she was going to do is she was going to make these filmed adaptations of Chinese myths, and then she'd be able to star in them, and they would be more positive portrayals of Chinese culture.
I'm assuming the partner had the money, because I was wondering,
she had money too from.
herself?
I mean, that film made $2 million.
True.
So she had a decent amount of money with her, but and she got paid for all of those extra roles and stuff like that, and the Toll of the Sea. She got paid for that, and she still lived at home, so she wasn't spending a lot of her money.
Very true.
So she had gone in with this, and they didn't say who this person was. I'm assuming it was a man. And they had gone in on this business together, but he was obviously shady, and he stole the money.
No.
She had to dissolve the business and sue him.
Fuck.
So she didn't ever get to make her films that she wanted to make. So she went back to playing supporting roles in movies. This is really interesting. She played Indigenous Native girls in 2 different films.
Okay.
Like if you see her, you're going to be like,
no.
how? She is like this porcelain, fair-skinned, beautiful woman. Like she looks like a doll. Like she is so beautiful. She looks like she looks like she should have been a model and an actress. And she was just tall, so tall, thin, I
think you have a crush on her.
Oh, I could not stop looking at her. I got so distracted when I was trying to do her stuff because I kept looking up her films and watching them because I liked watching her on screen. She was really beautiful and just captivating. So to have her play like she just didn't fit the role.
Yeah.
But, again, they didn't care.
No.
They were like, oh, you're an other. You can play any other.
Play anything. Yeah.
She also played Tiger Lily in Peter Pan. And now this is the word that was used at the time. I don't even understand what this means necessarily.
Okay.
An Oriental vamp in a movie called 40 Winks.
Okay. Vamping, a vamp is like
sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oriental vamp.
It'd be a cool band name.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, new band name.
She was continuing to be lauded as a great actress in the reviews of these films. They were like, oh, you've got to pay attention to her. She's amazing. Watch her in anything she's in. But she was getting more and more upset at the kinds of roles that she was getting. She was like, if I'm so good, cast me in something that matters.
Yeah. Or if you're saying keep an eye on her, then put me in a fucking movie with a lead role.
So she tried to do something else. So she set out with a traveling vaudeville circus tour filled with actors.
Okay.
But it was not a success. And she came back to Los Angeles and she kept being typecast over and over again. So after about 2 or 3 years of being fucking frustrated as hell, she was like, I'm leaving. I'm going to Europe.
Oh.
So in 1928, she left for Europe. And this is what she said at the time. I was so tired of the parts I had to play. There seems little for me in Hollywood because, rather than real Chinese, producers prefer Hungarians, Mexicans, American Indians for Chinese roles. And of course, vice versa.
Yeah.
Anna May was very successful in Europe. And like the section on her time in Europe was very long, and I did not want to talk about all of it because it was like she was in this film and then it did this much money and it did that. And I was like, oh God. So I'm going to just sort of,
Briefly.
yeah, like collapse a lot of that.
Okay.
So she was pretty successful in Europe. She even learned to speak fucking German
Ooh,
fluently.
that's awesome.
So she spoke Chinese, German, and English.
And English.
I almost said American like a fucking idiot. However,
You
here's
caught yourself.
I did. I caught myself. Here's something super frustrating. So she's in Germany doing these roles in German. She's coming from Hollywood.
Okay.
In the German press, they never, ever talk about her being American. She's Chinese. She's like, bitch, I've never even been to China.
Yeah.
Like, it was just bizarre. But she was offered leading roles.
Take
She
it. Take
starred
what you
in-
can.
Yep, she starred in German films and in an operetta, which I assume means she could sing too.
Wow.
And they called her powerful and deeply moving in the German press. So while she was in Germany, she met and became close friends with a woman named Leni Riefenstahl, who I'd never heard of, but I found out was an actress who had ambitions to be a director and eventually became a very successful director.
Okay.
So maybe someday I'll talk about Leni Riefenstahl.
It's quite a name.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Anna May also met Marlene Dietrich.
She did.
Doesn't she come up all the time
She
for
does. Yeah.
us? Someday I'll just have to do her. So the three of them forged a friendship together, and this often fueled rumors of
That they were in a relationship.
lesbianism,
Dun, dun, dun.
which unfortunately, because Anna May was Asian American, fed into that stereotype as like being deceitful, because obviously being gay itself was a deceitful,
Mm-hmm.
deviant behavior. So that wasn't great for her reputation or her career. And of course it didn't really affect Marlena's.
Really?
Like Marlene Dietrich was a high-powered star. However, there's a whole situation with the fact that the studios owned actresses. That's real shitty.
Mm-hmm.
In 1929, Anna May played the second to the lead in against this woman named Gilda Gray in a film called Piccadilly. Anna totally stole the show. She completely upstaged her co-star, and she walked away as the most memorable part of the movie. She played this very sensual, sexual woman in the film, of course.
Mm.
And the filmmakers had even planned to include a scene of her kissing her white co-star,
Oh.
but it was cut before the film was released because it had garnered so much controversy. But this film was eventually restored and has become known as one of her best performances. So Anna then starred in her first talkie called The Flame of Love. She actually recorded it. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
In French, English, and German.
The same movie in 3 different languages?
Yeah.
Holy crap. Yikes.
Like the amount of obstacles that she jumped over to try to prove herself is just
Yeah.
incredible. So that same year, this is like a kick in the fucking face.
What?
That same year, Paramount Studios was scouting for great European talent. And despite the fact that Anna May was American, they were discovering her in European cinema.
Okay.
So they wanted to sign her. They saw her and they were like, you need to come into our films. You're
Mm-hmm.
great. And she was really reluctant. She's like, I don't know if I want to go back to the United States.
Well, I would have that mistrust because of how everything was going against her. And then, too, that person stole money from her.
And she wasn't getting the roles she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So they promised her that she would be given lead roles and the top billing.
Okay.
So it means she would be the first name on the poster
Oh, wow.
and the first name on the credits. Like she would be the main. So she decided to return to the States. That was a deal she couldn't turn away. The year she returned, her mother was hit by a car and killed in front of their house.
Oh, my gosh.
Isn't that awful?
That is awful.
And Anna May moved back into her family's home and was taking care of her younger siblings financially and emotionally. And she was like paying for them to go to school and stuff. So she had this like terrible stuff going on in her personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And she was still trying to rise in her stardom. You know, she really wanted this role. And Paramount kept their promise. She was the top billed actress in a starring role. However, the role was yet another stereotypical depiction of Asian women.
Mm.
She played the vengeful daughter of Fu Manchu in Daughter of the Dragon.
Okay.
It was the one and only time she was able to star alongside an Asian actor, Sesu Hayakawa.
Oh, they were in a movie together. Okay.
They were the villains.
Oh, okay.
Even though she was considered the star of the show, get this shit. She's the star of the show, top billed name. She's on the poster. This huge picture of her is the main picture. However, she's like painted green and looks evil. It's not great. But she's the biggest. Most important. She got paid $6,000, while Sesu made $10,000, and their white male counterpart, who was in the film for just 23 minutes, was paid $12,000.
Oh my gosh.
The layers.
Outrageous. Just outrageous. That
So-
they don't even value you.
Why make her top billing and then not pay her top pay?
Yeah.
I mean, this is still the problem in Hollywood today. That's
Absolutely.
why, you know, Michelle Williams is like out there talking about equal pay,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because actresses are still getting totally fucked over.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the reason why Michelle Williams is the one who's talking about that shit is, did you ever hear about that story with her and Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah. How much less did she make than him?
Free. So they had signed up to play these roles. They got paid their paychecks, and then they had to go back and do reshoots. And I think it was because one of the co-stars died.
Okay.
I can't remember what had happened exactly. And they had to reshoot some of these scenes. Michelle Williams went back and did it for fucking free because they didn't tell her they would pay her anything else. Mark Wahlberg got like $10 million.
Jeez. What the fuck? No, thank you.
So long history of this idiot shit.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
She persisted.
yes, she did. And Anna May was actually fairly famous as an actress. She's regularly working in big films. She's got top billing. So she decided to use her fame to bring attention to some issues that she cared about. One is that at the time, Japan was aggressive towards China, was like invading, and there was lots of shit going on. And they had invaded Manchuria at the time, and so she was very critical of Japan. So she had come out publicly and was really talking about that. And she was also coming out publicly and like writing articles and doing interviews to talk about the negative stereotypes of Asian people in films.
Mm.
And she said this, which I think is brilliant. Why is it that the screen Chinese is always the villain? And so crude a villain. Murderous, treacherous, a snake in the grass. We are not like that. How could we be, with a civilization that is so many times older than the West?
Mm.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
That reminded me of that thing that Elizabeth Peratrovich said. If you're so civilized, you got so many years of civilization, then how come you're treating us this way?
Right.
Her next role would end up being one of her most famous. In fact, I would say the most famous role she ever had. She starred opposite Marlene Dietrich. She played the part of a Chinese sex worker. They were both sex workers, to be fair.
Okay.
Marlene's character was too. Her nickname was Shanghai Lily.
Oh.
I know, I'm side-eyeing that racism right there. But Anna played the part of a Chinese sex worker in the movie that they were in together called Shanghai Express. It all takes place on this like train. It reminds me of that movie. What is that movie?
I don't know.
I don't remember. It just did a remake of it. It's like the Oriental Express. Is that what it's called?
Maybe. I don't know.
And I'm not sure if this is the same as that one because I've never seen
I've
any of
heard
those
of-
versions.
I've heard of Shanghai Express.
Yeah, because it was also called the Oriental Express, right? Are they
Maybe.
the same films?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Obviously, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was originally made with Marlene Dietrich and Anna May Wong and then remade again in like what I think that was like the 50s, and then it was remade again. I wouldn't be surprised. So they're in this movie together, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you a scene later after we're done recording, because the sexual chemistry between Marlene Dietrich and Anna May Wong was enough to get my entire body lit on fire. I was definitely having like
moment.
hot flashes. I rewatched it fucking 6 times, I think. So it's actually widely thought, like at the time and even now, that Anna May Wong, just like she'd done before, totally upstaged Marlene Dietrich in this film. Although I haven't seen the whole film. I found it online. You can watch the whole film, but it was like an hour and 46 minutes. And I was like, I don't have time for that. Someday I'm going to watch it though. I'm going to share though a little, obviously that sexual chemistry, by the way, didn't help the whole lesbian rumors.
Yeah, if you're trying to cool it down, don't turn it up.
The fact that everybody in the fucking 20s was talking about their sexual chemistry, I think is pretty clear that they had it. So I'm going to play a little clip, though, from a documentary that talks about this role that she played, but also I think really encapsulates who she was as an actress in this era.
Okay.
What I think is very fascinating about that film is that I really do think she held her own against an acknowledged world-class diva.
She worked. I think the best word for Anna May Wong is she earned her position. She earned it the hard way. That's why she survived as long as she did. And she came into a community. It wasn't striving, let's find a Chinese lady and make her a star. Anna May Wong created a desire for Paramount to have a Chinese leading lady. She did it herself.
You're right. She's beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh. I love that idea, though, that she did it herself.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know they needed her. She made sure they knew.
Mm-hmm.
So this role that she played in the Shanghai Express, it did make her a lot more famous because she was alongside Marlene Dietrich, who was then probably the most recognizable actress in the world. But also, over the years, Anna May Wong had gotten some pretty negative press in China.
Okay.
Because she often played these roles that were like villains or sex workers or things like that, or overly sexual women. And that really went against the cultural norm in China. And this film really didn't help because she was legitimately playing a sex worker alongside another sex worker, being very sexual.
Yeah.
And again, was not like, they weren't the heroes of the film. And that just really cemented her in a lot of negative Chinese press. There was actually kind of like a tug of war that happened in the Chinese press about her because they wanted to acknowledge this woman who came from China, technically didn't come from China, but, they believe like came from China, and like claim her because she's this famous actress. But at the same time, her portrayals of Chinese people were so negative that a lot of her films ended up not even being able to be shown in China.
What a terrible rock and a hard place to be stuck in between.
Yeah.
It's like you're just, she'd be more than willing to do better roles, but they're not there for her. So she's taking what she can because she's trying to live her dream. And then she's being judged on both sides where people are wanting her to portray something that she's not. And then the people that see that are mad at her because of what she's putting forward. It's like she can't win.
Yeah, there's no pleasing anybody, including herself.
Because she's not really doing what she truly wants to do.
Well, and things weren't getting easier for her either. Suddenly she was starting to be turned down for roles that were Chinese.
Okay.
An MGM exec once told her this. She was too Chinese to play a Chinese.
What the hell does that mean? That means that you look too much like
the character.
Like the character in your ethnicity, and we want to make you look more white.
Mm-hmm. So, once again, she's like, fuck this place and left for Britain.
Yeah, I would.
And she toured in some vaudeville shows, she made some films, and finally got an on-screen kiss with a white husband.
Ooh.
I was like, whoa, Britain was ahead of the time.
Yeah.
But she was still waiting for the role that would put her on the map and that would make her proud. So in the 1930s, one of the best-selling novels in the world was called The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. Have you ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
I know about it because I think I read it in high school, but I don't really recall it very well. But Pearl S. Buck won the Nobel Prize for Literature for that book, and making her the first woman to do so.
Okay.
And Pearl S. Buck had grown up in China. She was a white woman, but she had grown up in China. I think her parents were missionaries, and she loved China and Chinese culture. And as I would say, as misguided as she was, at least she was not like just writing fantastical things out of her brain that weren't true.
Mm-hmm.
And for one of the very first times, she wrote this novel that was set in China, and it was about this Chinese family, and like all of them were just complex characters living out a family drama. And it was being optioned into a movie. And Anna May, even before it had been optioned into a film, she had wanted to play the part of the main character. The main character is a woman named Olan, and she wanted that part. And in fact, all of these like industry newspapers in Los Angeles and even the Los Angeles Times, when it became news that they were going to make it into a movie, they all said, oh, this part is definitely meant for Anna May Wong. She's desperate, wants to play this fucking part. This is the part that was made for her. This is the part she's waited her whole life to play. However, the studio passed her over.
Oh my gosh, for who?
They had already cast a white man to play the lead role of the husband.
And there was no way.
So they weren't going to put her in the lead role of the woman. So instead, a white woman named Louise Rayner was the one who played Olan. And of course, there was this thing in film called the Hays Code of Conduct. And one of them in there was like, you cannot cast mixed race couples, period. So they offered her a part in the film, the part of a character named Lotus. Lotus was a deceitful girl who destroys the family and seduces the family's son.
Okay.
Anna May Wong was furious.
I'd be over it. I'd say no.
She refused.
Good.
And she told Irving Thalberg, who at the time was the most powerful man in the entire film industry, this: if you let me play Olan, I will be very glad. But you're asking me, with Chinese blood, to do the only unsympathetic role in the entire picture featuring an all-American cast portraying Chinese characters. She called him out.
Yeah.
Louise Rayner, the one who portrayed Olan, the role that was meant for Anna May Wong, went on to win the Best Actress Oscar for that role.
Oh, jeez. Oh, the burn. It burns.
In 1934, Anna May's father left the United States and returned to China. And he took some of her younger siblings with him, the ones that were not adults. And after the devastation of having lost this part and her family is living in China, she decided that for the first time she was going to visit China. And she ended up on her trip, she would write articles for American publications as she traveled, because they were very interested in hearing what she had to say about being in China.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chinese press, because of their history with her, alternated between treating her like royalty and slamming her for her everything, for the fact that she spoke in a Taishan dialect, which was very different from Cantonese, her lack of a husband, and her status as an independent woman. They didn't like any of that.
All dangerous things.
There was also a documentary crew that followed her around and filmed a lot of her interactions.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, what's really cool is that footage was later made into a documentary that aired on American television in the 50s.
Oh, that's really cool.
So I'm actually going to share a clip from the documentary that aired in the 50s. So this is going to be footage of her visit, and she's going to provide the narration on what's happening in it so that everybody at home can hear her voice, because her voice is not what I expected.
Yeah, it's really sexy.
It is it's sultry.
And now for the great adventure to see my father that I haven't seen for a long time. And we get there by train, bus, and foot. And there is our old pappy. And rearing up is Richard, our youngest brother, and my sister Ying. He is so delighted and beaming as he greets us. We go to the village, and the people are curious and come from miles around to see what a movie star looks like. This is one of my favorite pictures of my father. He was so happy that day to be surrounded with his family from the West and the East. Although I've been to many, many places in the world, this first and only trip I made to China was the most meaningful.
That's really cool. It's shot really well.
It really is. What do you think about her style?
Oh, it's on point. I was like, that dress.
Oh, that
Yeah.
dress.
Her
And-
silhouette is lovely.
I didn't show you the clip that came before that, but before that, there's like a close-up of her talking to the Chinese press, and her makeup is flawless. Her hair is flawless. She looks like this breezy, beautiful, ethereal woman. And I was like, oh my God, like the fact that she couldn't get leading roles, it was really frustrating because she was so
Fascinating to
captivating
watch.
to look at. So when she came back to the US, oh, by the way, at this point in life, you can imagine that she's pretty fucking depressed.
Yeah.
Her family lives in China. She can't get the role she wants.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I didn't put in here, but I read it in the New York Times. So I have a subscription to the New York Times, so I can search their archives.
Okay.
So I just typed her name in, and one of the things that came up was an article, and no one mentioned this anywhere else in any biography I read, but I found it. And it was that her younger sister, one day this is when her dad still lived in the States.
Mm-hmm.
They were all having like breakfast together. The sister got up to leave the table, and she went into the garage and she hanged herself.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they found her like an hour later when they went looking for her. And so like her sister is dead. Her parents her mom is dead. Her dad moved back to China. You know, she has no one around. She can't get the role she wants. She lost the role of a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And it went to someone who didn't deserve it and who went on to win an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine that
Life sucks right now.
So she's drinking a lot.
Oh, okay.
She's smoking a lot. She's drinking a lot. And it even had made it into some of the like Chinese press gossip. So she comes back to the States and she's feeling completely defeated. At that point, when you signed with the studio as an actor, you were required to do whatever your contract said. So she had a certain number of films she had to film no matter what. But she's fucking pissed.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes back and she says, I'm going to finish my contract, but I'm going to only do B movies. And B movies were these like terrible movies that they would shoot and film, whatever, really quickly to make a buck. And they were always terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And despite the fact that they weren't great films and they were often hated by reviewers, Anna May enjoyed doing them because for the first time in her career, she got the chance to play roles that weren't stereotypical. In a movie called Daughter of Shanghai, she actually got to be the heroine.
Oh, wow.
In fact, they rewrote the script so she could be. Anna was becoming also at this time more active in the Chinese American community. I don't know if it was because she went to China and saw what was happening, but something in her really decided that she needed to be more politically active. And imperialist Japan was becoming increasingly aggressive towards China. So she started auctioning off her costumes from her career and donating the money to support Chinese refugees who were escaping. She also starred in 2 anti-Japanese propaganda films and donated her salary to the United China Relief Fund.
Wow. So she helped.
Yes. And Anna May all but left movies altogether in the 1940s and instead started doing real estate investments around LA and Santa Monica. In 1951, so now we're like and so she's hardly done any films at all for years.
Yeah.
In 1951, there was a company called Dumont who made televisions, and they decided to create their own television network. Like, well, we put out TV, we're going to make TV. So they decided to create a network, and because they were not like the big like NBC, CBS, and then eventually ABC, these guys were like pulling their peanuts together to put together a network. They were putting things together that was like not like anything else on television. So they approached Anna May and they said, we want to give you a show.
A show?
Your own television show.
Wow.
So they gave her a television show. It was like a hour long, aired once a week, and it was called The Gallery of Madame Liu Song, which was her original birth name, right?
Oh, okay.
So she played the title character, and the title character was this woman who was an art dealer who becomes involved in mystery and intrigue and detective work. Like, it reminded me of, it was Jessica Fletcher. What was that?
Jessica Fletcher?
God, we just watched it. Abby and I watched all of the seasons available on Amazon Prime. They're terrible, but fun. But yeah, so Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So that's what it reminds me of. Instead of a writer, it's an art dealer. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the show obviously was canceled after only 10 episodes. And here's the funny thing is that whole network folded and nothing of that show remains. Some of the stuff from the network had been able to be kept, but not even a script is still in existence. And it's rumored that everything from that network was put on a barge and dumped into the Hudson River in New York.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. I feel
Put it on a barge.
But the show did exist. It happened. And that meant that Anna May Wong was the first Asian American to have her own television show.
Wow.
It's the 50s. She's been drinking now for like 15 years. Her health is deteriorating. She even starts having internal hemorrhaging.
Oh, Jesus.
She was still appearing every once in a while on television shows. And in 1960, she received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And there's this really cool sculpture called the Gateway to Hollywood, and you enter through it to get to where all of the studios are. And it was made in like the 60s, I think, maybe later. But it's these 4 pillars, and each one of them is a different actress. And one of them is a Hispanic actress named Dolores Del Rio, which someday you should do her because I've never heard of her before.
Me neither, yeah.
Dorothy Dandridge, who is a black actress, and Mae West, who is white. And then the 4th one is Anna May Wong.
Oh, that's really cool.
Her last film role was in a movie called Portrait in Black, and even then, she could not escape stereotypes. The film's press release, so the film company, put out a press release, and they wanted to explain why she had taken such a long absence from movies. And so they said this. They said that her father had passed down a Chinese proverb to her, and it said, "Don't be photographed too much or you'll lose your soul."
Okay.
Which has also been attributed to Native Americans. I mean, it's just one of those like dumb, whatever.
Yeah.
So Anna May's last role was supposed to be in a film adaptation of a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, but she had to turn it down because her health was failing. And she ended up dying. Anna May Wong died on February 3rd, 1961 at the age of 56.
Whoa, she's really young.
Yeah, she died of a heart attack with complications due to alcoholism. Many of the obituaries written after her death included that fucking quote from the film company that they sent out in that press release.
Wow.
Which is why I was pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Even in death, she couldn't fucking escape
get away
it.
from it.
So despite falling into relative obscurity in the mid-20th century, Anna May Wong's impact on cinema, and especially Asian American portrayals, lives on. The Anna May Wong Award of Excellence is given out every year at the Asian American Arts Awards. She's also been the subject of many poems and songs, and had 2 biographies written about her in the 21st century. Her films also saw a resurgence in popularity when she was the center of some career retrospectives at the Museum of Modern Art and at the American Museum of the Moving Image. Just this week, on January 22nd, 2020, Anna May Wong was the featured Google Doodle.
Oh, I think I saw that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why I did her.
Okay.
And that was because they were commemorating the 97th anniversary of her first major film, The Toll of the Sea. Anna May Wong was never given the opportunities she deserved, but her talent and star power lives on. She is electrifying on film, an incredibly captivating and beautiful actress. She draws your eye to her, and it never leaves. We'll never know what she could have done in film had she been given the role she wanted and deserved. Nonetheless, she is an icon in film and fashion, especially for Asian Americans. I'm so sad for her that she never
really
got that role.
sad for her. Yeah.
I got a lot of stuff from Wikipedia because it was really well done, and I ended up pulling a lot of the sources that they went to. I went to those as well. I also used the National Women's History Museum. The New York Historical Society Museum and Library did an exhibition called Chinese American Exclusion Inclusion, and there was a piece on Anna May Wong. I used the piece from that documentary, those 2 clips. It was called Anna May Wong in Her Own Words by a filmmaker named Yuna Hong, and it was on the YouTube channel Women Make Movies. The British Film Institute, there was an article by Jasper Sharp called A Celebration of Anna May Wong in 6 Films. There was a really incredible article by a writer named Nicole Chung for Vulture magazine that was called The Search for Madame Liu Song, which was the TV show. Mm-hmm. This woman was like bound and determined to try to find something, but they couldn't.
She couldn't turn up anything.
And I also used her New York Times obit from 1961 and a New York Times article from 2004 called A Dragon Lady and a Quiet Cultural Warrior by Leslie Kamhi.
Wow, what a life.
I know that one was long. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think she deserves it.
I wanted to have justice given to what she had done.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're going to see, Abby and I are going to go see Margaret Cho soon. And I remember when Margaret Cho got her sitcom. She was the first Asian American to have a sitcom.
That show was awesome.
I know. It was very short-lived, but it was one of my favorite shows. I still remember everything about that show. I loved that show. Mm-hmm. And to find out that there was another person who came before her really blew my mind. I just didn't know.
Yeah. Even now, the amount of Asians that are represented in Hollywood, so small of a percentage.
Yeah, actually, I was going to include this, but I ended up not. I found an article that was when Lucy Liu was getting her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She talked about Anna May Wong and her legacy.
That's really cool.
In her speech. Yeah. All right, who do you have?
A very fun person today, and it's okay that yours was long because mine's a little short. So
all right, well, we're good compatible today.
Dieynaba Sidibe.
I don't know her.
She's an artist. She's a slam poet and Senegal's first graffiti artist.
Ooh, from Senegal. I love this. I have a friend who was from Senegal.
Oh, you do?
Well, he actually passed away a few years ago. Okay. He was in a car accident.
Oh, I think I remember.
Yeah. In fact, it was just the 10-year anniversary the week before Christmas.
Oh, wow. Well, Dieynaba was born July 2nd, 1990. So you remember 1990.
Oh, I was 7, yeah. So this person is younger than me. Okay, cool. I'm going to feel really accomplished now.
She was born in Dakar, the capital and the largest city in Senegal. From a very young age, she said she loved painting. Her parents would give her like little allotments of pocket money to like play with or go buy snacks or stuff. She wouldn't do that. She would go and buy art supplies.
I love that.
Yeah. Art wasn't something that her parents thought that she should get into. They thought it was kind of like a pastime, like a dilly-dally. Like they wanted her to focus on a direction, something more professional of what they
Yeah,
thought.
it's not a real pursuit.
Yeah, it's not a real job. One day she came home and she was really shocked and sad, and her mom had thrown away all of her art supplies.
No.
Yeah.
Yayoi Kusama's mom did that too.
I don't understand.
These moms. Support your kids.
Yeah. And so her mother didn't believe that women should paint. She thought it was distracting her from her studies. And she wanted Dieynaba to be a doctor. Dieynaba said after that, it was a war. And for years, she went against her parents' wishes and she continued to follow her passion. She kept buying supplies. She kept drawing. She kept painting. She didn't put it down. So looking back on that now, Dieynaba says, society has created a place for women. And when you try to go outside of that, then there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So despite the pushback, she continued painting. And she happened to upon a documentary that it was about graffiti and graffiti artists, and it really intrigued her. She really liked the style and the design of graffiti. And after turning 18 in 2008, that's the year my son was born.
That's the year that I met Abby.
Oh, geez. She decided to give doing graffiti a shot. And so actually in Senegal, there is a huge resurgence of graffiti art. Or I wouldn't say a resurgence, but maybe like it's something that they've discovered.
A beginning? Yeah.
A beginning, yeah. Which is crazy because graffiti has been in America for so long.
For decades.
Yeah. So she fell in love with hip hop culture and slam poetry. And through graffiti, she said, I found I could express myself better on a wall as there was more space than a canvas. She learned the technique thanks to fellow members of the hip hop community and a center called Afroculture Ban. Afroculture Ban.
It's a hard word.
It is a hard word.
Is it like a smash word? Like it's like three words put together?
Afroculture Ban. And that is located outside of Dakar. Her mentor and one of the center's president, he goes by, he's a rapper. He goes by the name Matador. He said upon meeting her and like her coming in and having an inquiry about this art and about slam poetry, he said it was a little surprising because she was a woman. And it was new to me because for 20 years, the only women that had come to the center were just more interested in the slam poetry. They weren't interested in the graffiti.
Oh, okay. I was like, there wasn't ever a woman who walked in the place? What the hell? I see.
So Matador thought her interest in learning graffiti and her desire to break barriers for women in street art was a good thing. He knew that she was going to bring something different, and he knew that it was something that men could not bring because they didn't see the world from her point of view.
Yeah.
So in West Africa, graffiti is an art form frequently used as a tool to express social change. And Dieynaba felt she had a lot to say about being a young woman in Dakar. She signs her work with the name Zenix. It's spelled Zeinix.
Huh.
And she describes her work as feminine, vibrant, and very hectic, which I feel is women in a nutshell.
I like this idea of being hectic.
Yeah.
That's an interesting adjective.
I kind of was a little like, I was wondering like what she meant by hectic, but like taking a look at her work, she shows movement really well. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I was wondering if what she means by that is that there's like frenetic energy to it, or if she means chaotic.
Chaotic. It
'Cause
just
it could
looks
be either.
energizing.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like.
She says that she cannot define herself between what is called wild style and a borrow style. So I looked up what these are because, of course, I was like, what is
I don't
this?
know.
So wild style is a type of graffiti that is interwoven and overlapping letters.
Okay.
It's very intricate.
Very
and-
common.
Yes, and it's really hard to read if you're not part of the graffiti culture. I've seen stuff like that before where you're like, what the heck does that say?
Yeah, it's a lot of times on the trains that come through here.
Mm-hmm. And the borrow style is more of the big rounded letters where they make it look almost like shiny, like a car with those big bursts
Yeah.
of light. So borrow style is a little bit more laid back. And the wild style obviously is a little bit more intricate. The artists that have been doing it for longer are the ones that do more of the wild style because it's really hard to do. So she said hers is kind of, she plays in between both styles. I didn't know that there were styles of graffiti, by the way. There's like 10 different styles.
As soon as you said that, I'm like thinking about things I've seen and I'm like, oh yeah, those are different.
I'm not really, hanging around with a lot of graffiti artists. So
Yeah, I don't have,
really
but
know.
Running, I see a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's this person, I have no idea who the artist is, but they do those owls around town.
Oh,
Have you seen them?
they're like, are they the ones that are on a little branch? Those? Or no?
I'm not sure. One of them was you and I were at the Garland Street Fair once, and there was one that was in sidewalk chalk on the ground.
Oh, okay.
And there's
Yeah.
one painted underneath the Sunset Bridge.
Oh, cool.
So if you're running on the trails by Latah Creek, and by the park there, you can see this incredibly vibrant purple owl. And every time I run, I just stop to admire that owl. And I think that they've put owls somewhere else too. Anyway, it's really cool. And I've always wanted to know, like, who is that?
is this
Who
person?
made this? Like, do they have work somewhere?
And usually these artists too don't use their real names because it is illegal
Yeah.
in most places. And they do their tag name or their signature. Also, like the really quick graffiti that's just like looks like garbage.
Yeah.
Those are called burners. I didn't know
Really?
that.
Yeah, I've seen those, obviously, especially on trains.
Yeah, the really quick ones that are just junky, they call them burners.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there are different styles, which if you want to look them up.
I'm curious now.
This is a quote from her. She said, "I want to express many things. The difference between painting graffiti and painting on a canvas is when I painted on a canvas, it was just because I wanted to paint. But now with graffiti, I'm more into social messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Women are marginalized in society, and I think my art can help people understand." So Dieynaba goal for her work is to show solidarity for women.
Nice.
She said, because we're all fighters. Women are fighting to be free, to do what they want, to do what pleases them, to be paid equally to men, and to follow their passion.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, she's so inspired, and she's so young too. So I like that she has such a concentrated goal as an artist. She also dived into slam poetry, writing feminist themes, and it reflects the imagery that she uses in her art.
And in Senegal, they speak French.
Yeah.
So is that what she does her poetry in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All of her interviews.
So then I won't be able to watch her.
All the interviews that I watched of her, everything's in French.
Speaking of French, do you
Speaking
know
of
how
French?
much shit I got for our episode in Eugenie?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because the one fucking word I didn't look up how to pronounce because I thought I knew how to pronounce it, I pronounced wrong the
Oh, no.
entire episode.
What was it?
I said lion, but it's Leon.
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 Who gave you shit?
Oh, our editor, Lucas. Thanks. My wife. Others that having like friends who texted me being like, really? I was like, it's the one word I didn't look up. Okay. I thought I knew how to pronounce it. So sorry, everybody.
Her
I
face is turning red.
fucking pronounced Leon wrong.
You're funny. So Dieynaba has had some pushback from a few men in her group, thinking that she doesn't belong there. Of course, there's always going to be a couple of those. She'd be working on walls sometimes when she was kind of first getting into the game, and men would come up to her and remark on her work or remark about her, what are you out here doing? She said overall, though, that most of her community that she surrounded herself with, the men have been very accepting. They've
Good.
been helpful, and she's formed some pretty good friendships, which is awesome. She feels that since she won the battle with her family, because her parents now do support her as an artist. She said she'll win this battle over people saying that she doesn't belong there. She's not even worried about it. She's
Yeah.
like, whatever, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, once you get your family on your side, that's really, that's all you really want.
Yeah.
You want your validation from the people closest to you.
So through her work, she's decided that she wants to battle for all women. In her work, she has highlighted subjects such as salary inequality, care for the environment, women's rights. And she's also part of a global campaign called Poverty is Sexist. And it's a global campaign of uniting all people to recognize the disadvantages towards women.
Yeah.
And also that poverty is super sexist towards women.
And it's a women's issue.
Exactly.
Women are inherently more affected by poverty.
Mm-hmm. And also, it brings attention to the disadvantage that we have as a society when you limit what women can do.
Yeah.
So it is a hashtag, which is poverty is sexist. There's also a website where they have a global letter that you can sign, and you can sign up for their newsletter. Her latest endeavor is a collaboration with the UN Human Rights Regional Office for West Africa in Dakar to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. She's been invited to paint several pieces dedicated to the survivors of torture on the walls of the African Center for the Prevention and Resolution of Conflict. She was also offered and now is the director of communications for the Afroculturban Center, where the center that helped guide her artistic journey. She works there now.
That's really cool.
Which I feel she's going to bring more women into this. I'll end with a quote. I watched a YouTube video interview with her for World of Women. It says, "My advice to the new generation of women is no matter who you are, whatever you do, wherever you are, make your own decisions. Don't let other people decide for you what you need to do for you. Work remains to be done. The fight will always continue."
Very cool. I like that a lot.
She also said one thing in the interview that was, I feel like people take this the wrong way all the time when I say it, but she said, put yourself first before others. It's not a selfish thing. Take care of you so that you're okay inside and outside, and that you can project that.
I 100% believe that. That's the whole reason why they tell you on a plane, full circle, to put your own mask on before you put on somebody else's.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't breathe, you can't help people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same idea in life. If you can't breathe, if you can't move forward, if you're not healthy, if you're not well, you can't help anybody else.
And you're more of a burden in that way too.
Yeah, I think it's just a good idea to make sure you're okay, then make sure they're okay, and help them be okay.
I like that she said that too. She said it with confidence, and just that you could see in her mind that that is a fact. And I feel like she's going to be able to help so many other people because she's taking care of herself first. There is a little spot on Rejected Princesses about her, campus.one.org, takepart.com, and then I got a lot of information from the United Nations Human Rights website about her, and a little bit from Wikipedia about the graffiti. Because I was like, I don't know what wild style is, but now I get it.
You said that they were going to be celebrating the 70th anniversary of the International Human Rights.
Yes, and that was actually in 2018.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that was a while ago. But I have a tattoo commemorating that.
You do?
I do.
Where is it?
It's on the top of my back.
Oh.
And it says, "Know your rights."
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I was quite taken with this young lady, and I can't wait to see what else she does.
Yeah, what else she does with her life.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I hadn't even thought about doing a slam poet. And now I have like so many ideas in my head because there was a brief moment in my life when I thought I could be a slam poet. Wasn't my best look.
I am a little like foggy on what exactly is slam poetry.
Well, it depends. Some people think just straight up spoken word poetry is slam, but technically that's not it. Slam poetry is like you go to competitions. A lot of it's impromptu writing, and you have to listen to what the other person says, play off of what they say, and it's like a rap battle but done in poetry, and there's usually like rules and also social, like a lot of social movements get brought into it. It's really neat.
Interesting.
There used to be a slam championship, and I don't think it exists anymore, called the World Poetry Bout Championships. And two of my favorite poets, who I don't know if they're both bad now, but Saul Williams, who I loved, who's a Black poet, and Sherman Alexie, who's a Native American poet, and he's from this area. He's now disgraced, unfortunately, for being a sexist, gross guy. Hopefully Saul Williams isn't. I haven't heard anything, but they competed against each other in like 2002 or something like that. And that I have it on VHS tape, and it is glorious to watch them.
Awesome.
Sherman Alexie won.
Well, I will make sure to include some of her art as well.
Yeah,
on our
I would love
Insta.
to see that. And I hope everybody visits bestof.inlander.com if you live in Spokane to vote for us for best local podcast, please.
Tell your friends to vote.
We are thirsty for that. I want that little plaque.
Amanda wants it hard.
Yeah, and there's also like a little like award ceremony that you get to go to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I want to go. But in any case, if you have a moment, you live in this area, please go to bestof.inlander.com and vote for all of the wonderful things. You could even vote for Rita under Best Mixologist. I did. And I want to thank our editor,
Lucas McIntyre
Thank you for all your work that you do for us. And also thank you to Jennifer Finch
from L7
for our lovely theme music. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening, guys.